Sunday, August 28th, 2022. This is all about your Benjamins and your weekly mixtape and weekend review video. Hope you had a great week. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see, well, if you're watching this on the blog, you can see there's only a handful of articles to hit on this week from the Wall Street Journal. If you are not watching this, you're listening to it. We've only got 4 articles highlighted. Don't forget to head over to the YouTube channel, subscribe there, stay up to date with everything that goes on, all about your Benjamins. And from me as a financial advisor, also, I've got the Pursuit YouTube channel for everything that's Pursuit related. Now, you see Pursuit show up every once in a while in All About Your Benjamins, and it will continue to do so because there is overlap. They are connected, yet they are 2 separate brands. Pursuit is about following your passions and creating the life that you want and using your inner passion, your inner creativity to do so. But there's a financial component to that. And that's what I hope to bring to that conversation is the finance side, which is where All About Your Benjamins connects. It's pretty cool to watch this and All About Your Benjamins, well, Pursuit and All About Your Benjamins and Harmless Wealth intertwine and come together. So just wanted to put those things out there. Let's get to the headlines that may or may not be impacting your financial plan and portfolio. And we're going to start off with the least impactful from a economic standpoint, but could be impactful depending on your personal situation. And it was President Biden getting the student loan forgiveness passed or signing it and putting it into rule. So now, first things first, I'm hearing a lot, and as probably should be expected, just because it's been signed doesn't mean it's going to go through. Probably will be a decent amount of litigation around this before it actually happens. But it looks like if you have student loan debt, you can expect to see up to $20,000, and we'll hit on the details of it here in a second, of your student loan forgiven and wiped out. And I really don't want to spend a lot of time talking about, is this the best decision to be made and what are the impacts on it? Because in some respects, I think that this decision really is just to try to get votes. It's a headline. It looks like DC is trying to improve the situation, and it is in some respects. I don't want to downplay those that have student loan debt, that the $10,000 being forgiven or $20,000 being forgiven is going to make a difference. But far more people have way more than $10,000, and that amount forgiven, well, as nice, isn't going to change the financial stress that they have because of student loans. And more importantly, it's not going to change the big problem of the cost of going to college. So there's no questioning that a college education is impactful for someone's lifetime earnings. Save somebody going to start their own business or being an entrepreneur. If you go into a career, there's enough data that shows a college education is worth an expense, but is it worth the expense that so many people have? And what I want to focus on is less about pointing fingers and blaming and complaining about whether or not you paid off your student loans and you don't get $10,000, because at the end of the day, there are plenty of government benefits that we all benefit from taxpayer dollars that not everybody does. Small business owners have access to small business loans and other benefits. And yes, they're taking on a risk and they should be given that. But at the same point, not everybody's a small business owner and not everybody benefits from that tax incentives that those small business owners, or take your pick. There's tons of things out there that are there from taxpayer dollars that benefit people that may not benefit you. I paid off my student loans. My parents pay my student loans. We get no benefit from this, but I'm not going to complain about that. I'm coming from a mindset of an abundance of I'm thankful that I was able to pay my student loans off. And yes, it stinks not to have a benefit of this, but if it helps other people, I'm okay with it. And if we're looking at government spending, it's nice to see some of the government spending coming back to the individuals rather than going to other things. We need to support other countries across the globe, but I saw there's a bunch of money going over to Ukraine that doesn't impact any of us, at least not directly like the student loan forgiveness. So I think that politics, as you all know, frustrates the hell out of me. I think this is just a political narrative that ends up causing the 2 sides to fight even more, and it was really just done to win some votes. Because at the end of the day, if they really wanted to make an impact, which I don't think they should do this, they would just wipe it all out. But they can't do that, and they're not going to do that. So doing $10,000 or $20,000 will help some people. It will make a difference. For a lot of people, it's just going to be a small little haircut on the total balance that they have, and isn't really going to change the impact of their current student loan. Making interest 0% interest for the life of the loan once the principal is paid back or something along those lines would actually probably have more impact than just wiping out $10,000, but it's not the same headline, an immediate headline, that wiping out the debt of $10,000 or $20,000. So where I want to take this conversation is talking more about the the importance of college and education, and should everybody be going to college, or would some people be better off going to a trade school? Would some people be better off going straight to apprenticeship and learning the skill and then going into that? Does everybody need to go to college? And then does the college experience need to be as expensive as it is? Meaning, an example would be, here in Indiana, we have a great school, Ivy Tech. And you can go to Ivy Tech for 2 years, relatively inexpensive, and then you can transfer your credits to IU or Purdue, other state schools, which means you would only have 2 years of the higher 4-year college to get through, maybe even less depending on how you structured your credits at Ivy Tech. That would be a more affordable way to go through college. You would miss 2 years, quote unquote, of the college experience of being on your own and partying and all those things that are so important to some people. But at the end of the day, you leave with the same degree as somebody with half the student loans potentially. Like, why are we not talking about that more? So I hope that this leads more of a conversation and more thoughtful planning about how do we want to go about college? Should we be putting our kids in a position to have that much student loan debt? Should it cost that much? And are there more creative, more impactful ways that still get us to the end result of having a degree, giving us the education we need to be successful in life, but without all the student loan debt? And I would argue that going to Ivy Tech for 2 years, you don't have to miss out on the student experience, because on the weekends, if partying is important to you and being social, you can drive down to see your friends that are at the bigger campuses, have that experience, come back, go to the more affordable school for 2 years, and then join them later on. So I think this is obviously not going to fix the problem. In some respects, it doesn't do anything to fix the problem of how expensive student loans are. It creates a little bit of breathing room for some people, which I'm happy for. I have no ill will towards that. And it's going to be, a talking point for the coming months nonetheless. So that was the first big headline. And again, it may impact your plan because you may have student loans that this helps you out. And if you had $10,000, like, that's a huge relief for you. But if you have $100,000 and you had 10, maybe 20,000 relieved, that's nice, but you still have got this stress of the remaining balance. So I think this is a bigger conversation than it really should be. And it's all driven behind the politics of it all, less about what it really does for people. So that's my 2 cents, my little bit of soapbox. But I would encourage all of you that, yes, you have a choice. You can be pissed about this decision because you don't benefit from it, or you don't like that that's where taxpayer dollars are going. But are you tracing every dollar that you pay in taxes to where it goes, and you're happy where they all go? Or are you just mad because this doesn't benefit you or it doesn't align with your party's agenda? You could choose to be that way, and I think your life is going to be a lot more unhappy, a lot more miserable, a lot more negativity in it. Or you can find the positive side of it, the abundant side of it, and saying, hey, I'm thankful that it happened. If it happened to me, I'm thankful that I didn't have to need it because I'm in a good situation. And yes, it doesn't benefit me, but it benefits others around me. And focus on all the good things in your life rather than complaining about this little thing. Because there's plenty of misspending going on within the government, that if we're focusing on just this one and missing everything else, then you're just cherry picking the issue that you're cherry picking the issue that you don't care about all the other things. So I think this is not something that we should be spending a lot of time talking on. If you don't like it, then there's voting and things you can do, or come up with a better solution. Go into politics, change things. Like, a lot of people have complaints, but they don't have any solutions, which is extremely frustrating to me. So I try not to complain unless I have a solution or I'm willing to go make the change myself, because otherwise complaining into the abyss doesn't do anything other than create noise. All right, rant over. Let's go to the next one. The markets did not like the Jackson Hole comments that came out from Chairman Powell, saying that the Fed needs to continue to be aggressive with interest rates. It doesn't look like they're going to be done raising rates. So the markets sold off, didn't like that. Again, they're all focused on inflation, which we know about, and they want to make sure that they get it right, whatever right might be. So the language that came out was not as positive as I think the market was hoping. I don't know what the market was really hoping for and expecting, but from the reaction of the market and the selling off, it was not what they were looking for. So nonetheless, the Fed is going to remain aggressive when it comes to fighting inflation, and don't expect rates to be going down anytime soon. And they even said they would raise rates as unemployment went up, if that should happen, if we have a recession. I want to dial back 1 second. I forgot one thing. I wanted to hit the highlights of the loan forgiveness. So it's $10,000 in federal student loan debt for borrowers making $125,000 a year, or couples making less than $250,000, and if you have a Pell Grant, then it would be up to $20,000 in forgivable loans. So I want to hit those two numbers because 10,000 is the one we hear the most about, but if you have a Pell Grant, then it's $20,000 up to that amount. $125 for an individual on income, $250 for a couple. So I want to make sure I hit those things real quick and didn't miss on those. And then the final two headlines really aren't main ones. I used to do this back in the day. I kind of want to bring it back. Tail of headlines over the course of the week. So from time to time, you'll have a headline that comes out that says one thing, and then a few days later, one that says the complete opposite. And the reason I like to highlight this is many of us just go through and then read the headlines to determine what's going on and don't actually read the whole article. And within a few days, depending on if you miss a day of reading, you might miss a headline that would totally change your perspective on things. So beginning of the week, Wall Street Journal had a headline that said more stocks are taking part in a bounce back rally. Bounce back rally, taking part in, makes it seem like it's a positive, optimistic headline. And for the most part it was, but it did highlight that even though the market is up from its lows, there's still some struggles ahead of it. So the article itself wasn't fully optimistic, but the headline sounded pretty good. Hey, there's a bounce back rally, things are going good. Fast forward a few days, and the headline is, investors ramp up bets against stock market as summer rally fizzles. So now we're betting against, we're having fizzling, and it's just a few days later in the same market. And yes, headlines change, some things happen, the market sold off in those few days, but the headlines are meant to sensationalize and pull us in. And even within a few days, you can have a positive one and a few days later be a negative one. And these aren't quite on the opposite ends of the spectrum as we've had in the past, but I'm going to continue to do this and try to find every week two headlines that paint two very different stories within the same week, within the same markets or economy that is just basically the headlines trying to pull you in to get you to read or click. So one day we've got stocks taking part in a bounce back, and a few days later we've got markets being bet against in a summer fizzle. So very dramatic and pulls you in, but that's why you shouldn't just focus on the headlines. One, read the article and see what it's about, and then two, just realize the headlines are there to be sensationalizing and pull you in to get you to click or read or watch or whatever it may be. So and very rarely do these headlines mean anything for the long term, because as you can see in a few days time they change. So you shouldn't be making, probably not best to be making changes to your financial plan based off the headlines that you're reading, and take your favorite publication or show that you're watching. All right, that is it for today. Want to thank you for staying with me through that rant. I wanted to make sure I got it in early on, because I really do think that the way we perceive what's going on, the way we receive things from the world, headlines or whatever it may be, really dictates the path that we're on. If you are reading, pursuing, or consuming it, I talk a lot about the law of attraction and the frequencies we put out, and good energy attracts good energy and bad energy attracts bad energy. Just because you don't necessarily like an outcome, you may not like the student loan forgiveness, doesn't mean that you need to put out negative energy attracting more negative. And looking at it in a negative standpoint, find the positive in it, find the optimism, look at the good in your life that outweighs whether or not you got that forgiveness or not. Yes, it doesn't solve the problem. Yes, it doesn't encourage anybody to make any major changes. But at the end of the day, it's not going to impact your plan greatly if you didn't get that. So with that, I'll wrap up. Thanks for tuning in as always. Feel free to share, like, all those great things. Have a great week, and we'll see you all in the next episode.